In the late 4th century Roman Empire, a really horrific massacre led to this incredible showdown, one that would end up redefining power for the next 1,000 years. It's an amazing story about an emperor's shocking crime and the punishment that followed, which was somehow even more shocking.
Okay, picture this. The year is 390 AD. You've got the most powerful man in the world, the Roman Emperor Theodosius the Great, trying to walk into the main church in his capital city, Milan. But he gets stopped right at the door, not by a guard, not by a rival, but by the city's bishop, Ambrose. And Ambrose says that unless the emperor repents for what he's done, he can't come in. An emperor literally barred from his own church. I mean, how on earth did it come to this?
And this moment, right here, this is the heart of the whole story. On one side, you have the total secular, military, and political power of the Roman Empire, all wrapped up in one guy, Theodosius. And on the other, you have the rising moral and spiritual authority of the Christian church, represented by this totally unbending bishop, Ambrose. It was a standoff that would have been completely unthinkable just a few generations earlier. So, yeah, how did this even happen? A Roman emperor's power was supposed to be absolute, right? It was built on military might and total authority. To be publicly humiliated like this was just a profound shock to the system. To figure it out, we've got to go back a few months to a different city entirely to find out where the fuse was first lit.
So our story really kicks off in Thessalonica, which is a major city in modern-day Greece. It was a bustling, passionate place, and like a lot of Roman cities, it was obsessed with sports, specifically the chariot races. And believe it or not, this obsession is where all the trouble started.
The guy at the center of it all, at least at the beginning, was a celebrity athlete, the star of the local hippodrome. I mean, think of him as the biggest sports star of his day. He was a hero to thousands of fans who would pack the stands just to watch him race. And then you've got the guy who's about to become the villain of this story, the military commander Boutric. Now, he was the head of a Gothic army unit stationed in the city, and to the Roman locals, these guys were basically seen as unpopular foreign occupiers. So when he goes and arrests their local hero, you can just feel the tension immediately spike. So why was the charioteer arrested? Well, this is where history gets a little murky. There's one ancient source that spins this really sensational, juicy tale of a love triangle, or maybe an attempted assault. It's a great story, but it's just one version. The boring historical reality is, we don't really know for sure. But in the end, the reason didn't even matter. The arrest itself was the spark that lit the powder keg. So, the people pour into the streets, demanding their hero be set free. But Buttigieg, the governor, he refuses to back down. And just like that, the protest spirals completely out of control into a full-blown riot. The mob turns its fury on the governor himself, and Buttigieg is dragged out and killed. Now, let's jump to the imperial court back in Milan. When the news reaches Emperor Theodosius that a mob has just murdered his top military commander in the region, he is furious. The sources don't just say he was angry, they describe his rage as volcanic. An attack on his official was a direct attack on him, on the authority of Rome itself. And this is where historians still debate Theodosius's exact role. Did he, in this fit of white-hot rage, give a direct order to just slaughter the citizens as punishment? Or did he maybe order something more limited, like go execute the ringleaders, only for his troops on the ground to lose control and just go on a rampage? We'll probably never know for sure. But what we do know is the result, and it is just tragic. The imperial troops descended on the city. They rounded up thousands of citizens in the circus, the very same place they used to go to cheer for their hero. And there, in just 3 hours, they slaughtered 7,000 people, men, women, and children. It was a breathtakingly brutal act of collective punishment. The news of this horror eventually makes its way back to Milan and to Bishop Ambrose. Now, Theodosius probably thought that was the end of it. A rebellious city had been put in its place. But for Ambrose, this wasn't just a political problem. This was a deep, profound sin against God, and it absolutely demanded a response. So what Ambrose did first wasn't a big public confrontation. It was a private letter to the emperor, which was actually a brilliant move. He didn't challenge Theodosius as a political rival, but as his spiritual guide. He reminded the emperor of the biblical story of King David, a powerful king chosen by God who also committed a terrible sin and had to publicly repent to be forgiven.
But Theodosius basically ignored the Roning. So Ambrose escalated. He publicly barred the emperor from communion, which effectively excommunicated the most powerful man on earth. For 8 long months, Theodosius was forced to perform these public acts of penance. And then finally, on Christmas Day, a humbled, repentant emperor was finally allowed back into the church. I mean, can you imagine that spectacle? It was completely unprecedented.
The key idea here is a concept called humilitas, or humility. Now, from a traditional Roman point of view, what Theodosius did was just deeply shameful. An emperor was supposed to show clemency, sure, but from a position of strength, not beg for forgiveness. But Ambrose totally reframed it. For a Christian ruler, this public penance wasn't weakness. It was a praiseworthy virtue. It was him being like King David, showing his piety to God.
So, why does this one event matter so much in the grand scheme of things? Well, because this whole showdown wasn't just about one man's sin. It was about forging a totally new relationship between the throne and the altar, and it left this incredible legacy on the very idea of what power even is. You can see the shift pretty clearly right here. Before this whole thing, the virtues of a good Roman ruler were all about military victory, strength, and a kind of calculated mercy. But after Theodosius's penance, 2 new, explicitly Christian virtues got added to the emperor's job description: piety and the capacity for real humility. Suddenly, the emperor wasn't just answerable to the Senate or the army, he was answerable to God, and the church was God's representative on earth.
And this is the bottom line, really. The penance of Theodosius is seen by pretty much all historians as a major victory of the church over the state. It established this powerful precedent that would echo down through the centuries that a ruler, no matter how mighty, was subject to a moral law that was higher than his own. And that law was interpreted by the church.
And all of this happened during this incredibly critical reign. I mean, Theodosius was the emperor who made Christianity the official state religion. He was the very last man to rule over a fully united Roman Empire. But just 5 months after he managed to unite it, he died, and the empire was permanently split between his 2 sons, never to be reunited again. His showdown with Ambrose was truly a defining moment of this whole pivotal era. Now, this incident in Milan didn't permanently settle the question, of course, but it fundamentally changed the entire conversation about power. It established this new kind of spiritual authority that could actually challenge kings and emperors. And it raised a question that Europe would wrestle with for the next 1,000 years. When a ruler has to publicly repent to a priest, who really holds the ultimate authority?